Hi 9P. So yesterday I had asked you to do the second half of the Unit 2 revision sheet, and I had asked you to hand in a selection of questions from that. Now I've had a little look through the ones that are handed in so far. Everyone else, don't you forget, it has to be handed in for tomorrow. And a lot of people are finding question 7 tricky, and that is fair enough. It is a hard enough question. So let me just remind you what question 7 actually is. So question 7 is all about books which are taken out of a library every day. And then we're asked to calculate all these different averages. So we're asked to calculate the mode or the modal mark, the median and the mean. And they've given us this table here with the number of books which are taken out each day and the frequency or how often that happens. So for example, there was 7 times that 4 books were taken out of this library. There were 9 times that 5 books were taken out. Okay, now before I start this question, I'm just going to draw out this table, but if you remember, I'm going to draw out in a vertical table because that's much easier to work with. Okay, right, so here's my table, and I'm going to start off with the mode. Now the mode means that we need to look for the one that happens the most often. Now if you just have a list of numbers, then all you need to do is look through and see which one occurs the most. But whenever we have a frequency table, to get the mode, all we need to do is to look and see which frequency is the highest. Now we can see here that 9 is the highest frequency, but our mode is not 9. The highest frequency just tells us which value is the most occurrent. So because this frequency is 9, then 5 is our mode because it's the number of books that happened the highest time. So our mode is 5. So I will just make a wee note of that here. Now I'm actually going to do the mean next. And again, if we were doing the more basic version of this where we just had a list of numbers, then we're all very good at remembering that you add those numbers up together and then divide by the number of them. But there's just an extra step that we need to do whenever it's a frequency table like this. Now, if we think again about what these frequencies actually mean, so it means we had one time where there was no books, there was no times where 1 book was lifted out, there was 2 times with 2 books, 4 times with 3 books, 7 times with 4 books. So really what we need to do is to add up 1 0, 2 2s, 4 3s, 7 4s, 9 5s and 3 6s. But if we were to sit and type all that into a calculator or add all that up into our head, it's likely that we're maybe going to forget one of these 5s, or we'll maybe forget one of these 4s, because trying to add 7 4s in, it's monotonous, it's a waste of time, and it's going to lead to silly mistakes getting made. So if you remember, what we do is we add this extra column onto our table. Now, whenever we did this earlier on in the year, I would have said, right, let's call the thing that we're talking about in these questions, which in this case is number of books, I call it X. Okay. Now, frequency column, I call it F, and hopefully this is ringing some bells with you. So what we do is we add this extra column onto our table, and I just call that Fx, and all I'm doing in this column is multiplying the frequency by the number of things that are happening. So that's my way of adding all the numbers up together. Okay, so 1 multiplied by 0 gives me 0, 0 multiplied by 1 gives me 0, 2 multiplied by 2 gives me 4, and I'm just going to go and fill the rest of that in now because you can see what I'm doing, and add my extra wee lines to the table. And just like that, it's done. So let's remind ourselves what this actually means. This 18 really means that this is like 18 books that were lifted out, and that came from 3 times when 6 books were lifted from the library. This is 45 books in total that were lifted out, and that came from the 9 times that 5 books were lifted out. So in order to add everything up together, we have to find the total of this Fx column, because this is the total number of books that have been lifted from the library. Now, to make ourselves look fancy and to get ourselves ready for maths further on up the school, do you remember this? Sigma Fx, and sigma just means sum of. So this is really just saying the sum of the FX column or the total of the FX column. So we just we note it underneath the column here. Now, if I add those all up, I get 107. So my total of that FX column is 107, and this is all the books that have been lifted from the library, all added up together. Now, think back to our original mean equation. Add everything up and divide by how many times it happens. Now, some people mistakenly add up these numbers and divide by that, but think about frequency. That means how many times does something happen. So the total number of times things that happen is going to be this column added up, and we would call that sigma f, total or sum of the frequency column, and that is 26. Okay, now to get my mean, let me see, I will do my working out for it here. I write the equation mean equals sigma fx divided by sigma f. But it is perfectly fine if you want to write mean is total number of books divided by frequency or divided by total number of time. This is just a little bit quicker, and as I say, it does start to prepare you for maths further on up the school. So my total of my FX column was 107 divided by my total of my frequency column, which was 26. And that gets me 107 divided by 26, 4.1153. Yep. Now, I'm going to just round it to one decimal place. Okay, so 4.1. So that is the mean all done. So I've got 2 of my answers out of 3. I had to get the mode, I had to get the mean. I also have been asked to get the median. And again, it is one that is tricky whenever you have the frequency table. Now, one way that you can do it is to list all the, in this case, number of books or all the things that are happening in order from smallest to largest. So you would list 1, 0. I'll start to do this here, but I'm not going to do this method where I'll need to get room. Let me get a different page. So I could list 1, 0, 0 1s, 2 2s, 4 3s, and keep on doing that the whole way through. And then the median, remember, is the middle value. But I suppose with this, it might be all right to do that, but I'm going to be listing 26 numbers. And in some questions, you might find that the total of your frequency column is in the hundreds, and you do not want to be sitting listing 100 numbers. So we're going to not use that method for now. And what we can do here is to add up our frequency column, and we sort of add it as a running total, and we would call that the cumulative frequency. And then from that, we're able to see where it is. Okay, so there's my extra column on. Now, I will say this is a technique that people do often find difficult. So give this your focus, your attention, and give it your best shot. Now, to do this, I really do not need this column in my way. So what I'm going to do is just set my pencil on top of it so that I don't accidentally use those numbers. I make silly mistakes all the time. So I want to do things that are going to prevent myself from making silly mistakes. Okay. So the cumulative frequency is just adding up all the frequencies as we go. And see the way we've already totaled our frequency column here? We know that this number here should be 26. So if it's not, then we've made a silly mistake somewhere. So that's always a wee check you can do. So if I'm looking here and I'm saying, right, the how many times were no books lifted? 1. So my cumulative frequency is 1. This one, how many times were either no books or 1 book listed? Well, I have to add on the 0, so it's still 1. If I'm looking here to see how many times were up to 2 books lifted, then that's going to be all 3 of these numbers added together. So I need to my running total here, I need to add on my 2. Oh, and I messed that up. So, silly me, 2 plus 1 is 3. Okay. On here, if I'm looking to see how many times were 3 or less books lifted to my running total here, I need to add on these 3 books. So that gets me 7. How many times up to 4? I need to add on this 7 to this, gives me 14. Do you see what's happening? Keep on going, add on my 9 gives me 23, and add on my 3 gives me 26. So that's good, we have ended up with 26, which is what we wanted to do. Now, I am going to take some time here to explain to you what this actually means. So this means that the first, if in our list of numbers that we're not going to write out, the first one is a 0, and then you still only have 1, and then the up to the third value are 2s. From the 4th value to the 7th value are all 3s. From the 8th value to the 14th value are all 4s. So if I was to ask you at random, and I do remember doing this in class, if I was to pick someone at random and say, right, what is the 14th value in my big list of values, you can look here and you can see, right, 14, the 14th value is a 4. But if I was to ask you what is the 13th value in the list, you can also figure that out, because the 13th value is in this group here, because this group has up to the 7th, and then from the 8th to the 14th is in here. So this is this group also includes the 13th value, so it's going to be a 4. If I was to ask you what the 25th value in the group was, well, we can see that's going to be a 6. If I was to ask you what the 5th number in the line of numbers would be, well, this is up to the 3rd and this is up to the 7th, so the 5th must be in this little group up to the 7th, so the 5th value must be a 3. Hopefully that is making some sense. Now, because the median is the middle value and we have 26 values, we need to think, right, well, where is the middle of that? And if you have 26 values all listed in a row, lots of people will think the middle value is going to be the 13th, but it's not. It's actually halfway. The middle of all those is halfway in between the 13th value and the 14th value. Okay. Now, the wee rule that you can do to always figure that out is to take your total of your frequency, add 1 on, and divide by 2. So let me do my working out for this here. So I would say the median is the 26th plus 1 all divided by 2 is the 13.5th value. And you might be thinking, how on earth can you have a 0.5th value? If it's a question like this, where you have something along these lines, then what we would do would be we would list what the 13th value would be, what the 14th value would be, and then we just go halfway in between those. So let's look back at our table. The 13th value is going to be in this little group here, because this group contains the 8th, the 9th, the 10th, the 11th, the 12th, the 13th, and the 14th. So the 13th value is 4. The 14th value is also 4. So halfway in between 4 and 4 is 4. So that means our median is 4. Now, one thing that you would need to be checking whenever you're doing stuff like this, check your answers are actually sensible. If we had got a number like 15, right, or say I had just written this down and thought that was my final answer, and I thought, right, well, the median number of books that was lifted was 13.5, well, how on earth can it be, because this only goes up to 6. So check your answers are sensible, and they are all within the range of the number of books that were getting lifted. Okay, hopefully that has helped. This has ended up a little bit longer than I had intended, but let's get on with today's stuff.